The year was 1980, and I was a 19-year-old in my junior year of college in the fall of 1980. I had moved in with a couple of guys off campus, about a mile from campus, in a house, and we were living there. And it was one evening, just a typical evening. I'd gone to bed, and about 2:30 in the morning, the phone rang. Now, this was a phone that was attached to the wall in the hallway because we didn't have cell phones. It rang and rang and rang, and one of my housemates picked up the phone, knocked on my door and said, "Roger, it's your dad." I went and wondered why my dad was calling me at 2:30 in the morning and said, "Hello?" And my dad said these words: "Mike has been involved in a terrible accident and is dead. We're going to your sister's house now in order to be with her. We'll let you know what we know once we find something out." And that was the end of the conversation. Mike was my 23-year-old brother-in-law. My sister and Mike had a child that was less than a year old, and my sister was 5 months pregnant with her second child. I was overcome with emotions. Fear gripped my heart for my sister. All kinds of thoughts went through my mind about Mike. You see, I'd known Mike for several years. We'd hung out, we'd thrown frisbee together, we'd gone hunting, we'd done some things together. And Mike was a fun-loving, energetic guy, but we never really talked about God or things of the Spirit. And I always wanted to. I wanted to tell him something about God and ask him about his relationship with Jesus Christ. But I never did. And now he's dead. And I have to live with that guilt and that pain. I didn't know what to do. I had been dating a girl for about a month and a half, and so I decided I'm gonna call her and see if we can just get together and talk. And it's 2:30 in the morning, and so I called her dorm, and her dorm has a phone in the hallway, and I dialed it and waited, and it rang, and it rang, and it rang, and it rang. It must have rang 15 or 20 times. Finally, somebody picked up the phone and said, "We're all sleeping!" Chink! And hung up the phone. That didn't make me very happy. If I could have reached through the phone, I probably wouldn't have been so nice to the person on the other end. And I'm crying a little bit, and I pick up the phone again and I call it back. And it rang and rang and rang, and somebody answered the phone and says, "What?" And I said, "This is an emergency phone call for Denise Rowe." And they said, "Oh." And they went and got Denise, and she came to the phone in somewhat of a stupor, and she was still tired. And I said, "Denise, this is Roger. I need you. Meet me outside your dorm in 10 minutes. And she said, "What's going on?" I says, "I'll tell you when I get there." And I hung up the phone. And this girl actually came outside and met me outside her dorm as I had parked there on the side of the street. She came outside and says, "What's going on?" And I just grabbed her and held her and wept and told her that my brother-in-law was killed in an accident just a little bit ago, and told her about my pain of not sharing Jesus with him and my fear for my sister and her pregnancy. We talked for a long time. In fact, we talked most of that night. My brother had called me and said, "Come to my house. We don't know what's going on, but you can meet at my house." And he lived about 2.5 hours away from my school. And so I decided I'd go to my older brother's house. And Denise actually fixed breakfast for me the next morning. And then I left, and I'm driving this 2.5 hours by myself in great agony and pain. And I'm going down the road. I'm not sure what to pray. I don't know how to pray. I don't know what to do. I'm struggling. And I'm going down the road and I'm wiping my eyes. The tears are just flowing. I'm trying to keep the tears out of my eyes so I can see to drive. And I'm praying this whole time, but I'm not even sure what I'm praying. And my prayer sounded kind of like this. I don't even know what that was, but it was a deep inward groaning. After 2 hours of driving, it's like the angels of God had ministered to me and had strengthened me. My tears had dried. I felt strong. And once I got to my brother's house, from that point forward, all the way through their funeral the week later, I didn't cry anymore. And I was strengthened and given the things I needed to walk through the valley of the shadow of death. Now, why do I share all this with you? Because there's some points that I learned through all of this that I'm still applying today. Number one is when God prompts your heart to tell someone about Jesus, just do it. That day's the day. Just do it. Do it as kindly and as lovingly and as honestly as you can. If God prompts your heart to get a relationship right with somebody, just do it. Today's the day. Get that relationship right. Don't let conflicts with you or your parents or your siblings or your friends or even your enemies, don't let them continue. Don't let them fester. Just do it and make things right, because number two, we don't have any control. We do not control life and death. God controls that. And when it's time, and it's going to happen, whether we want it to or not. So don't waste time. Get right with other people. And the third thing is pray. Pray without ceasing. Don't worry about your words. Just make it a heart cry. I saw some years later this story in Romans 8. It says, the Spirit will make intercession with our spirit, with groanings and utterances that we can't even hardly articulate. And it's as if the Holy Spirit, when we're really sincere in our prayers, it's if the Holy Spirit is communicating to God and say, hey, God, here's what he's trying to say. And here's what he means. And here's what's going on. And the Holy Spirit prays with us and for us. It is such a blessing. Now, some years later in Africa, I felt some other strain and stress, and I actually even wrote a song about this verse. I want to share it with you, and maybe I can do it well this morning, but I'll try. Just listen to the words is the main thing. It goes like this. Holy Spirit, groan before the Father's throne, for I am weak and don't know how to pray. Holy Spirit, please and intercede for me according to the Father's will today. For you know my heart, you've been through every part, so I come to you with this appeal. Holy Spirit, groan before the Father's throne and pray for me according to God's will. Don't wait. Be prompted by God and do those things he tells you to do. Realize he's in control and you're not. And always pray and allow the Holy Spirit to pray with you, even if you don't know what to say.